Ashley, will you marry me? In a restaurant with my daughter Sophia. What is happening right in front of us? Where we are dining is a proposal from my husband Kevin to his mistress. The other customers started to stir and turned their attention to the couple. I've been waiting. Yes, please. The woman called Ashley answered happily in response to Kevin's words. The surrounding crowd cheered loudly, creating a festive atmosphere. Such scenes are rare, so everyone was giving a standing ovation. Ashley was smiling happily amid the cheers, but I felt unbearably frustrated and pained. Mom, let's go. At that moment, Sophia stood up. What? Aren't you upset that those two are being celebrated like this? Indeed, the restaurant was filled with a happy mood. The two were smiling and thanking the applauding guests around them. Despite my heartache, they seemed happy, which was something I couldn't just accept. Sophia's words pushed me, and I stood up. Then, I walked up next to Kevin and said directly, "Congratulations on your marriage. My name is Diane Baker. I am a 57-year-old housewife. Currently, I live with my husband Kevin, who is the president of a company he inherited from his parents. Kevin and I met through an arranged marriage. My father, who was a businessman, knew the president of a company, and Kevin was his only son. My brother now runs our family's company. And we still maintain a good relationship with Kevin's company. It was a marriage of convenience, and though we were not especially close, Kevin and I managed our relationship well. We were blessed with our daughter Sophia, who recently got married. To outsiders, it might seem like a smooth sailing life. But we had a certain issue. We did not have a son. Kevin had always wanted a son to pass the company on to. I fully understood his feelings. However, it seemed that was all he could think about. When I was pregnant, his first words were, "It's a boy, right?" An insensitive remark as it was too early to know the gender. Even though I told him he was being premature, he started buying baby boy clothes and shoes because they were cheap. Later, it was revealed that the baby was a girl. A part of me felt slightly depressed thinking about Kevin. But I returned from the obstetrician and told him about it. What? A girl? Kevin was visibly shocked. As expected, I was slightly taken aback by his reaction, but while stroking my belly, I spoke. I understand you want a boy, but I'm sure the girl will be adorable too. Please don't be too pessimistic. Yeah. You're right. It seemed my words had made him reconsider, but his next words stunned me. Well, there's always next time, no worries. Kevin laughed off my words. The thought of a next time and a no worries before our child was even born was unbelievable to me. Once again, I realized that Kevin did not want this child, and the word divorce crossed my mind. However, divorcing would bring problems related to our home and company. I decided to ignore Kevin's remarks just this once and prepared for childbirth. Then Sophia was born. I had hoped he would change a bit after she was born. But Kevin showed no interest in Sophia and didn't even think of a name. I named her Sophia myself. Despite his lack of interest in children, shortly after giving birth, Kevin started wanting a second child. I tried my best to meet his demands, but we were not blessed with another child. Fortunately, my mother-in-law had gone through similar experiences and sympathized with me, which was a relief. However, every time I got my period, Kevin would sigh loudly and start verbally abusing me. When are you going to get pregnant? I couldn't say anything and just kept silent. Kevin had a good public image. Despite his verbal abuse, our neighbors praised him as a wonderful husband. I forced a smile and coped with this facade every day until I eventually broke down. After I fell ill, Kevin seemed to realize it was serious and reduced his cruel words. My mother-in-law also told Kevin to take good care of me, and we managed to regain some peace. After that, our life seemed fairly normal. Sophia went to a private middle school, rode the escalator to university, and then got a job at a general company. After a few years of working, she decided to marry a classmate from university. His name was Tom Morgan. He was a young man of the same age as Sophia. He studied business management at university and even started his own company. Now, he works for a major bank handling corporate accounts. He's the same age, but I really respect him. Sophia told me about Tom, but Kevin's response was cold. He started a company? Did he run it himself, or did he crash it? He sold it. Even if that were the case, there's no need to speak like that, is there? He just couldn't handle it on his own, could he? Playing at being a president just because it seemed cool, huh? It's understandable if a father wants to criticize his daughter's boyfriend out of affection. But Kevin had been so hands-off until now, only to interfere with her marriage. I stood by Sophia and said to Kevin, I think it's impressive enough that he started and sold a business. You haven't even done that much. Not everything should start with negativity. Then, Kevin turned red and yelled at me. What? You, who've just been living off me, don't get cocky. Sophia and I were both taken aback by his remark. He was the one who wanted me to be a housewife in the first place. You don't understand how hard it is to maintain a company, not just start it or sell it. Kevin continued to shout at us one-sidedly. Although not all his words were wrong, I didn't think it was something to be so angry about. But still. Sophia muttered softly. I was struck by her realization. I knew what Sophia was getting at. It was the forbidden word for Kevin. However, being ridiculed by her boyfriend, Sophia probably couldn't stand it. Dad, you're not even managing it yourself, are you? I tried to stop her, but Sophia didn't hold back. Kevin turned even redder. Probably because she hit the nail on the head. Yes, as Sophia said, Kevin is the president, but he's not managing the company. Initially, he was involved in the management, but it didn't go well. And now he relies entirely on an external management consultant. Kevin might feel complex about it. But it was a desperate measure as he couldn't just let the company fail. I think he could handle our company just fine. He has various experiences and is currently overseeing several companies. Sophia said this unaware of Kevin's concerns. It's not uncommon to hear of sons-in-law taking over a business. Depending on Tom's willingness, it might not be a bad idea for Kevin either. Contrary to my contemplations, Kevin exploded in anger. There's no way I'm handing my company over to someone else. Someone else? He's going to be my husband. He's family, isn't he? Both of you, stop it. I stepped in to break up their argument. If you had given birth to a son, none of this would be a problem. That's horrible. Think about how Mom feels. Kevin flared up, and I was hurt by the same old accusations, while Sophia defended me. Sophia and Kevin's big fight didn't lead to any concessions. And Kevin decided not to interfere with Sophia's marriage. Kevin attended the wedding, smiling and making use of his usual public facade. But behind the scenes, he started to grumble to me about Sophia and Tom. My in-laws were utterly dismayed by Kevin's attitude. I'd be relieved if Tom took over, but I wonder what Kevin is thinking. Originally, the company was my mother-in-law's father's. Her husband, my father-in-law, took it over, so they were fully supportive of Tom taking over. Tom was willing to try if Kevin agreed, but without Kevin's approval. The succession issue remained unresolved as time passed. Sophia and her husband set up their new home in an apartment near ours and started their new life, often visiting us. Now that it was just Kevin and me, we didn't feel lonely as we were enjoying our days. 2 years later, the rift between Sophia and Kevin seemed to have eased somewhat, and they gradually started talking again. However, the succession issue remained unresolved. As a result, Kevin became even more immersed in his work, often coming home late. On the other hand, Tom was rapidly promoted at work and recently became the youngest person to receive an executive position. He proved to be capable and responsible. Personality-wise, there's no doubt he would be the right person to entrust the company to. It was one day when everyone except Kevin thought that Tom should be the successor to the company. I actually saw Kevin walking with a woman I don't know. She's not from the company, but they seemed close. My mother-in-law brought this up to me. What? I don't think so. Kevin seems so busy with work, I don't think he has the time. I hope that's the case. My mother-in-law, always on my side, wouldn't likely lie about such a thing. I'll ask him about it just to be sure. Thank you for telling me, even though it must have been difficult. I assured my mother-in-law. If asked whether I had any inkling about this, I couldn't say there was none. There was no way to prove he was really at work because, as a president, he could say he was on a business trip and not show up at the office. The management consultants were handling everything. Unable to stay put, I discussed this with Sophia. Understood. I'll look into it. Thus began our investigation into Kevin's infidelity. Honestly, the investigation was straightforward. If we went to his office at the end of the workday, Kevin, who was supposed to be working overtime, left the office before anyone else and headed to a certain place. Ashley. Kevin. And there, he met up with a woman and disappeared into the night city. It was shocking, but I had Sophia and my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was even more shocked and apologized to me while crying. She promised to scold Kevin and make him stop the affair, but it was still too early for that. Sophia and I began gathering evidence, planning to confront him once we had irrefutable proof. What is this about? I confronted Kevin with the evidence. He momentarily avoided eye contact, then lied. She's just a business contact. We only used this hotel for a meeting. I couldn't believe he thought he could escape with such lies given all the evidence. Do you have nothing better to do than to accuse me of cheating? You're just imagining things. You know this could damage the company's reputation, right? Do you want to ruin the company? He retorted angrily. Honestly, I didn't trust him. Even if she really was a business contact, it was clear there was more to their relationship. But knowing that I suspected him, I believed he wouldn't make such foolish mistakes anymore. If you truly betray me, I will not forgive you. I've told you, she's a business contact. If you make false accusations and I'm innocent, you'll regret it. With such a strong denial, I hoped things would be fine for the future. For the moment, I decided to let the issue rest and end the conversation there. Months later, a new incident occurred. Kevin had mentioned he would be staying overnight at a hotel after a business dinner. Tom was away on a business trip, so Sophia and I planned to have dinner together. It was close to my birthday, and Sophia had booked a nice hotel restaurant. I wanted to do this on the actual day, but Dad will celebrate with you, right? I wonder? He hasn't celebrated it in years. While we chatted, Sophia suddenly froze, staring intensely at one point. What's wrong? Curious, I followed Sophia's gaze and was speechless. There was Kevin, who was supposed to be at a business dinner, sitting across from a middle-aged woman. It was the same woman, Ashley, who had been with Kevin during our previous investigation. Their dressed-up appearance was clearly not for business, but rather looked like a date. We were both stunned into silence. Then, Ashley stood up and headed towards the restroom. I'll be right back. I told a concerned Sophia and followed Ashley. I didn't intend to confront her aggressively, I just wanted to know what kind of person she was. Inside the restroom, Ashley was on a phone call. Nick, did you have dinner? Good, I'm glad. Thanks for looking after him, Mom. I'll be back tomorrow. I was surprised by her words. It seemed Ashley was leaving her son, Nick, with her mother. Waiting for her to finish the call, I approached her. Is this a date? What? Ashley looked startled by my sudden question. It would be so. But I continued the conversation. Sorry for the intrusion. I was just dining with my daughter, and we were admiring a lovely couple here. Ashley relaxed a bit and smiled. Really? That's nice to hear. You look very beautiful, and your partner is charming. Your son. He's staying home tonight? It's important to have time as a couple. Ashley seemed to let her guard down completely. Actually, we're not married yet. There are some problems. Problems? He's already married to a terrible woman. He wants to divorce her and marry me. He's very fond of my son and wishes his wife would just disappear. Ashley spoke as if mocking someone. I had initiated the conversation, yet her words irked me. Despite knowing Kevin was married, Ashley talked about marrying him. Kevin, who had neglected his own daughter but was now doting on another's child, infuriated me. Still, I managed to keep my irritation hidden. I see. Oh, I didn't mean to keep you. Enjoy your evening. Thank you. After that, I quickly left the restroom. Returning to the table, my irritation hadn't subsided, and Sophia was concerned. What happened? That fool intends to marry her. It seems she knows he's already married. What? Sophia expressed her anger openly. We both glared at Kevin. Then, Ashley returned. The two of them laughed and resumed their meal. Our food arrived, but I wasn't in the mood to eat. As dessert was served at our table, we overheard a voice from Kevin's table. What? What is this? Looking over, we saw Kevin standing with a large bouquet of flowers. Ashley, will you marry me? As Kevin began his proposal, the other customers started to murmur and turned their attention to the couple. I've been waiting. Yes, please. Ashley answered happily in response to Kevin's words. The crowd cheered and gave a standing ovation. Caught in such a scene, rarely witnessed, everyone applauded. Ashley smiled happily amid the cheers, but I was overwhelmed with frustration and pain. Mom, let's go. At that moment, Sophia stood up. What? Aren't you upset that those two are being celebrated like this? Indeed, the restaurant was filled with a happy mood. The two were smiling and thanking the applauding guests around them. Despite how I felt, watching them laugh happily, it was naturally unbearable. Sophia's words pushed me, and I stood up as well. Congratulations. Sophia shouted loudly and pulled my hand. Across the crowd, I could see Kevin, who thanked happily in response to the voice. Could he not recognize his own daughter's voice? I was astonished. Sophia and I remained standing and blended into the crowd of applauding guests. Then we rushed toward Kevin. Congratulations on your marriage. Congratulations. We sandwiched him from both sides and greeted him. Close enough to recognize our voices, Kevin looked startled as he turned to see us on either side. Ah. From earlier. Ashley recognized my face and casually smiled. Congratulations. Good for you. Yes. Ashley, holding a large bouquet and peeking out from it, energetically responded to my words. Contrarily, Kevin started shaking and turned pale. Noticing his reaction, Ashley, puzzled, put down the bouquet. Kevin? What's wrong? Huh? Yeah. Kevin was visibly startled by Ashley's words, replied briefly, and then forced a laugh. Up close, he was sweating profusely and seemed extremely flustered. At that moment, I thought about pushing him right into hell. So? When are you divorcing, Mom? Sophia clung to Kevin's arm, making sure he couldn't escape, and dropped this bombshell. What? Even Ashley was visibly stiffened by that remark and looked bewilderedly between Sophia and Kevin. What? Divorce. The surrounding guests also reacted to the word divorce, and murmurs began. Ashley's face rapidly changed, the happy expression gone. Right, Kevin? You can't marry without divorcing me first, can you? I raised my voice so that other guests could hear, and Kevin turned paler. Ashley finally realized who I was. You knew about me and approached me on purpose. Ashley said, trembling. She glared at me like a demon, but the one who should be angry was me. It was a classic case of her lashing out in response. Yes. Thanks to that, I found out you weren't just a victim deceived by Kevin but someone who knew he was married and still involved with him. To me, you're an offender. An offender? That's an exaggeration. Ashley started to panic at my words, but Kevin, still grabbed by Sophia, couldn't escape and didn't attempt to defend Ashley. I took this chance to continue. Not an offender? You knew Kevin was married, right? Both of you will be hearing from my lawyer regarding the compensation. Compensation. Ashley repeated my words, stunned into silence. Of course. The mood in the restaurant, once celebratory, had shifted. However, it seemed even more lively than before. Some people even began recording the scene. Comments like, "This is a mess. He proposed without being divorced?" And, "Proposing while cheating, what was he thinking?" could be heard whispered among the guests. Both Kevin and Ashley's faces turned bright red and they hung their heads in shame. They finally seemed to realize the disgrace of their actions. That's right, isn't it, Kevin? I addressed Kevin. Devoid of his usual bluster, he looked up timidly, as if seeking salvation in my gaze. You better be prepared. With a sweet, angelic smile, I delivered the final blow that would send him spiraling down into despair. No, no. Kevin collapsed, as if all strength had left him. Sophia let go of his hand, but he reached out to her. Sophia. Don't touch me. Sophia slapped his hand away. No one offered them any help, and they remained exposed to the curious stares of the public. Sophia and I left the two behind and exited the restaurant. That day, Sophia ended up returning to her parents' house, where she stayed the night. It was good that she came because I didn't want to be alone, especially since Kevin, who wasn't supposed to return, did come back. What are you doing here? Came to pick up something you forgot? Is Ashley not waiting for you? No, well, Kevin stumbled over his words, searching for what to say. The conversation wasn't going anywhere, so I added more. Or did you bring the divorce papers? Kevin flinched at those words and whispered, sorry. As if that would settle everything. A scoff escaped me, and I waited for him to continue speaking. Under Sophia and my piercing glares, Kevin must have realized he couldn't deceive us any longer. In the next moment, he began to apologize to me. Diane, I'm sorry. I'm ashamed of how I acted. Ashamed? Well, I actually feel quite liberated by all this, so? It was a moment of folly. Please forgive me. I don't want a divorce. I was taken aback by his words. Not want a divorce? I couldn't understand. However, as I stood there with a question mark over my head, Sophia began to laugh. Did Uncle get a call about terminating the contract? It seems like he forgot that his company was doing well because of Mom's family connections. No, it's not like that, I just Under Sophia's words, Kevin began to panic conspicuously. He was trying hard to come up with excuses, but it was all too late. I see, that's what this is about. Finally, I understood why Kevin was refusing divorce. It appeared Sophia had contacted my family about this matter. The company run by my brother, who is the president of our family business, had a significant contract with Kevin's company. Currently, Kevin's company is stable. This is partly due to the efforts of a management consultant, but that's not all. After all, a company must earn money to sustain itself. Kevin's company was able to generate profits largely because of a significant contract with my family's business. Now, my family's support is crucial for the survival of Kevin's company. But truth be told, my family sees little benefit in maintaining the contract with Kevin's company. In fact, it's a hassle, and my brother has been wanting to revise it. It's just more work, but I do it because of my sister. My brother always said that, and Kevin knew it too. Well, you know, a company is also about family ties. Don't be like that. Let's continue to work together in the future. During gatherings like Christmas, Kevin would say this to my brother while pouring drinks. But perhaps he thought my brother was joking. If he understood the company's situation, he would realize that my brother's words were no joke. Kevin seemed to be quite an incompetent president. Family ties can be cut, just like contracts, right? I will divorce you no matter what. And you have to marry Ashley. Didn't you promise her? I pressed Kevin. No, I'm really sorry. Kevin admitted all his faults and apologized again. But please, I'm begging you to forgive me this time. I'll do anything. Didn't I say I wouldn't forgive you? Who do you think you are to ask for forgiveness now? I cut him off sharply. Kevin remained not moving an inch. He was actually trembling, seemingly crying. While we were watching him like this, the sharp tone of a smartphone rang out. Kevin reacted to the sound and looked up. I quickly switched the call to speakerphone. Diane? Sophia told me everything. Tough situation, huh? It was my brother, the very topic of our conversation. Kevin held his breath. I didn't know what the two had discussed. But it must be embarrassing for Kevin to show up trying to reconcile now that it was known. Yes. But I've decided on the divorce, and it's not a big deal. I spoke bravely while displaying a triumphant smile. I see. Besides, you must have been troubled too, right? Sorry about that. Not really. I'm actually relieved to finally cut ties with Kevin. He didn't contribute much but acted all high and mighty. And our employees were suffering because of him. I glared at Kevin with those words. He was supposed to have a good public image, but he had been arrogant to my family's employees. Surely, he didn't look down on them. Sensing what I meant, Kevin averted his gaze from me again. Well, we'll continue the contract for this fiscal year. But if Kevin causes you any more trouble, just tell me. I'll cut the contract right away, and that will start the countdown to bankruptcy. With those words, Kevin finally seemed concerned about his fate. He rubbed his hands together as if pleading and looked tearful. How reassuring. I'll count on you then. While Kevin looked pitiful, I ended the call. As soon as the call ended, Kevin burst into tears. I really am sorry. I'm apologizing so much, please spare me. Huh? Did you listen to our conversation just now? If you cause me any more trouble, I can have my brother step in, you know? I told Kevin. He wiped his tears bitterly and became subdued. No, nothing. I'm truly sorry. Kevin whispered tearfully and apologized again, remaining motionless. If you understand, then leave quickly. I didn't want to see Kevin's face anymore. However, contrary to my intentions to drive him out, Kevin showed no signs of moving. Even as Sophia urged him to leave, he didn't budge or say anything. His eerie stillness was almost frightening. "Should I call the police?" Sophia suggested. I nodded and immediately dialed 911. The police arrived, and Kevin continued to sit there until they convinced him to move. "You're the one at fault, aren't you? You can't cause any more trouble for your wife and daughter." As the police tapped Kevin on the shoulder, guiding him outside at last. I hope he reflects a little on this. It would be good if he could understand how Mom feels, even just a bit. Watching Kevin's diminishing figure, Sophia spoke to me in a tone tinged with disbelief at the sorry spectacle. It was indeed pitiful that the police had to intervene. But perhaps this embarrassing ordeal would make him realize his own failings. As his figure faded into the distance, Sophia and I exchanged looks and shared a laugh. With Sophia's help, preparations for my divorce from Kevin are going well. Knowing I'm a single mother and still demanding compensation? That's monstrous. Inhumane. Ashley appealed through her lawyer. Well, you knew he was married and went ahead anyway. You must have known you'd be liable for damages, right? I refused any compromise on Ashley's part regarding compensation or its reduction. I had no obligation to make concessions. Especially after she had said in the restaurant bathroom that she wished I would disappear. Knowing her character, there was no way I could consider being lenient. Kevin resisted to the end but finally agreed to pay the compensation and proceeded with the divorce. You've hurt Diane enough over the years. It's time to stop binding her. My mother-in-law stood firmly by my side. And my father-in-law joined her in earnestly apologizing for Kevin's actions. Despite such a husband, I truly cherished them. They were not to blame, on the contrary, their support was invaluable. It seemed that Kevin had intended to break up with Ashley, but ultimately, she did not let him escape, and they ended up remarrying. I moved into an apartment near my daughter and her husband, starting a new life. Thinking this chapter had closed until one day, Kevin tracked down my new home. "Help me. Ashley wants her son to take over the company." He blurted this out as soon as he arrived, bringing up family issues that were none of my concern. "What? That's your problem," I said coldly. Then Kevin said, "But you can't let a stranger take over, right?" This was a phrase Kevin often repeated in the past. However, since he had married Ashley, her son was also his son, theoretically. Ashley had said Kevin was fond of her son. It shouldn't be a problem. Just as I was about to point this out, Kevin made an unbelievable suggestion. "That's it. Let Tom, Sophia's husband, take over. Then, he would be my grandson by marriage, and there's a blood connection." I was stunned by his words, dumbfounded by the audacity of his suggestion. "After all your declarations that you wouldn't let Tom inherit. Which face of yours is speaking now?" I couldn't help but raise my voice. "If Ashley's son is yours, then good for you, you got your wish of having a son." While Ashley's son was technically Kevin's stepson, there was no true blood relation. Meaning he would forever be handing his company to an outsider. Assuming the company lasted that long. But Kevin looked utterly despondent. It was somewhat pitiful, but he had brought this upon himself, a situation of his own making. At least try to genuinely care for him as if he were your real son. I gave him advice that was probably the best he could take in his situation. Kevin looked irritated. He's almost grown. He's graduating high school next year. I was surprised. Since he was often at his mother's, I had mistakenly thought he was much younger. However, Ashley's son was already 18 and attended one of the local schools known for its low academic standing and rough reputation. Despite his poor academic performance, It seems Ashley's real plan was to have her son enter Kevin's company and eventually make him the president. Kevin was completely deceived by Ashley and married her. Kevin explained this bit by bit. While I felt like bursting into laughter upon hearing this, Kevin's face was marked by serious concern, troubling him deeply. The management consultant was also at a loss, but this was no longer my concern. Could you at least try to negotiate one more time with your family for the contract? Despite his audacity in asking, I firmly rejected the idea. No way. How can anyone trust a company president who commits adultery? It sounds like there's no future for him anyway. Kevin continued to complain about Ashley afterward, but I simply reiterated that it was his own responsibility. In the end, he left with nothing resolved, his head still full of worries. Kevin had always wanted a son. I secretly reveled in the fact that his neglect of Sophia and me had finally come back to bite him. One day, Sophia contacted me to say that our dramatic scene had become a topic of conversation online. Apparently, someone had identified Kevin and his company from the incident. I received messages of concern from acquaintances and friends from when I was married to Kevin. Thanks to you, I'm enjoying life, I told them, and they all shared updates on Kevin's current situation. It seems that Ashley's son really has taken over the company, and the internal situation is now beyond repair. Their home life is far from harmonious. Ashley neglects household duties, frequents outings, and, flaunting her status as the company president's wife, often causes trouble outside. Several employees have seen her behavior. Companies that had dealings with Kevin's company are now considering severing ties. It appears that cutting ties with Kevin was timely. According to Sophia, even Kevin's own parents no longer communicate with him, suggesting he will continue to face increasing isolation. The downfall of his last bastion, his company, seems inevitable. I now live a free and easy life. After divorcing Kevin, I learned that my daughter and her husband had assets worth around $2 million. Thanks to the funds Tom had accumulated from the sale of his company. Mother, please don't worry about money, he told me, offering reassurance. Tom has since joined my family's business and is working with my brother to expand the company, which is slated to go public soon. The company is expected to grow even larger. And there's another growing thing. It's Sophia's belly. It's a boy. I will soon have a grandson. This is now my greatest joy. Though there have been hardships, I believe there is plenty of happiness ahead. With this belief, I live each day to the fullest.